Alright, so you know how everyone's talking about World War I? Well, here's a very brief history of World War I in 60 seconds so that you can sound smart when people bring it up. So basically there was this big event in Europe in 1914. It was called the Sarajevo Assassination. Basically a bunch of European leaders got together and they were like, hey, let's solve all of Europe's problems at the same time. And then they did that, and then World War I started. So basically you had Germany and Austria fighting on one side, and then France, Britain, and Russia on the other side. But really, the fighting was between these two groups, the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance, not to be confused with the Triple Ds, which was a German alliance that also existed during this time period. Anyway, the war started in Europe, but it quickly spread around the world. You had the British Empire, which at the time controlled basically all of India. You had them fighting against the Ottoman Empire, which controlled basically all of the Middle East. You had fighting in Africa and in Asia. There was even a battle in Newfoundland, which is part of Canada. And of course, there was fighting across Europe. But the main form of fighting was trench warfare, which basically consisted of two sides just shooting at each other and then occasionally charging across no man's land and getting shot at. So it was horrible. The war ended in 1918 with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. That was the peace treaty that ended the war. And it was signed in the Palace of Versailles, which is why we call it that. And the treaty was very harsh on Germany. They had to give up a lot of their land. They had to pay a lot of money in reparations. And they also had to accept the blame for the war, which a lot of Germans didn't like because they were like, hey, we were only trying to get our land back that the French had taken from us after the Franco-Prussian War. But that's not really important right now. Anyway, people are still arguing about whether or not the treaty was too harsh on Germany, but that's a topic for another video. So do you know any obscure history facts? Share them below. And also, if you want to hear more